It was just past midnight when my phone rang. The screen showed it was my mom calling, which was unusual for this hour. Usually, I'd ignore calls so late because they often meant trouble or some unexpected emergency, but something compelled me to answer this time. When I picked up, her voice was soft and trembling. "Are you alone?" she asked quietly, almost like she was afraid to say it out loud. I was confused. "Yeah, I'm alone." "Why?" I replied cautiously, my heart already starting to pound. She said, "Sit down. I need to tell you something." Her words were heavy with emotion, and I did as she asked, sitting on my bed gripping the phone, bracing myself for whatever she was about to say. What came next broke my world into pieces. "You're not my daughter," she whispered. "You're my niece." I blinked in disbelief. "What? No, that's impossible. You're my mom." But she went on to explain a story I could never have imagined. She told me my real mother was actually her younger sister, the one I had always called aunt. When my biological mom was a teenager, she got pregnant unexpectedly and disappeared, leaving me behind with just a note. My mom, out of love and compassion, had raised me as her own daughter and never told me the truth to protect me from the pain and scandal. I sat frozen, my mind racing and heart aching. The woman who kissed me goodnight, who cared for me when I was sick, who cheered for me at every school event, was now saying she wasn't my mom at all. This revelation shook me to my core. Why hadn't she told me before? Why now, after all these years? My mom said my biological mother had contacted her recently and wanted to meet me, that the truth had to come out, no matter how painful. I ended the call feeling numb, unable to process what I'd just heard. Questions flooded my mind. Who was my real mom? Why did she leave me? And how could my mom keep such a huge secret all these years? The next day, I tried to talk to my mom more, to get every detail. She told me the younger sister had been young and scared, made mistakes she couldn't fix, and vanished from our lives to protect herself and me. The note she left was faded but full of love, explaining why she couldn't keep me but hoping I'd have a better life with my aunt. My mom showed me the note, and I traced the fragile handwriting with my fingers, feeling a strange mix of sadness and confusion. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind wandered through memories of my childhood. Was everything a lie? Who was I really? The thought of meeting my biological mother terrified me. Would she want me? Would she be kind or cold? I wondered if she had thought about me all these years or if I was just a secret she wanted to forget. Days passed, and the anxiety grew heavier. I couldn't focus at work, my heart pounding whenever my phone buzzed. My mom told me she had arranged a meeting with my biological mother and that I could bring someone for support if I wanted. I debated telling my best friend but kept it to myself, afraid of how others might react. The idea of learning the truth both scared and excited me. I wasn't sure if I was ready to face the past, but I knew I couldn't avoid it forever. I felt like my whole identity was shifting beneath my feet, and I needed answers. So I agreed to meet her, the woman who had given me life but vanished before I even knew what family meant. The days leading up to the meeting were some of the hardest I've ever faced. Every moment was filled with nervous anticipation and swirling doubts. I kept asking myself if I was ready to confront this new reality, to meet a woman I had never known but who had shaped my entire existence simply by giving me life. My mom was supportive but quiet, as if carrying her own heavy burden. She seemed relieved to finally share the secret but worried about what might come next. The meeting was set for a small cafe in the city, a neutral place where we could talk without interruption. On the day, I dressed carefully, wanting to look presentable but also feeling the weight of every step I took toward this unknown chapter. My mom came with me, holding my hand as we walked in. I saw her before I heard her, sitting quietly at a corner table, her posture tense, her eyes scanning the room nervously. She was older than I imagined, and though there was something familiar in her face, there was also a stranger staring back at me. When our eyes met, I felt a rush of emotion, a mixture of curiosity, anger, hope, and fear. She smiled faintly and motioned for me to sit down. We exchanged awkward greetings, and then she began to speak. Her voice was soft and hesitant, like she was afraid the words might break the fragile connection forming between us. She told me her story, a story filled with pain, regret, and a desperate desire to protect me. She said she had been young and scared, caught in a relationship that had spiraled out of control. She had made choices she now wished she could undo, but at the time, running away had seemed like the only option. She left me behind because she thought it was the best way to keep me safe from the chaos of her life. I listened, tears pricking my eyes as she shared the loneliness and guilt that had haunted her every day since. She told me she never stopped thinking about me, wondering if I was safe, if I was happy. But fear had kept her from reaching out. Fear of rejection, fear of the unknown, fear of disrupting the life I had with my mom, who had loved and raised me as her own. The more she spoke, the more I realized how complicated and human her story was. She was not the villain I had imagined, but a woman overwhelmed by circumstances beyond her control. She expressed hope that we could start fresh, build a relationship based on honesty and understanding. My heart ached with conflicting emotions. Part of me wanted to embrace her, to fill the void I hadn't even realized was there. But another part was scared of opening wounds that might never heal, scared of being hurt again. I asked her questions about why she left, what she hoped for, and what she wanted from me now. She answered as honestly as she could, admitting her mistakes but promising she wanted to be part of my life if I would let her. After the meeting, I felt exhausted but strangely lighter. For the first time, a piece of the puzzle had fallen into place, and the blurry lines of my identity seemed a little clearer. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of our conversation. I thought about the sacrifices my mom had made, raising me without ever revealing the truth, and about the woman who had given me life but disappeared. The next days were a roller coaster of emotions. I talked with my mom more, trying to process everything and asking her about the note my biological mother left behind. My mom showed it to me again, its edges worn and its ink faded, but the words still full of love and hope. I felt a strange connection to the woman who had vanished but left a piece of herself behind. Despite the pain, I wanted to believe that meeting her was the start of something healing. But as I tried to move forward, doubts crept in. Something about the story didn't sit right with me, little inconsistencies, details that didn't add up. My mom was evasive when I pressed her for more information, and I noticed the way she looked away when I asked about her younger sister. One night, when I confronted her gently, she sighed deeply and said there was more I didn't know, that the truth was complicated and dangerous. That's when my world tilted again. I realized that the story I'd been told might only be a part of the truth, that beneath the surface, darker secrets might be lurking. I decided I needed to find out everything, no matter how painful. The next step was clear. I had to dig deeper, to ask questions no one wanted to answer, to uncover the family secrets buried for years. But as I stepped into this unknown territory, I didn't realize how far the rabbit hole would go, or how much it would change everything I thought I knew about my family, and myself. After the meeting with my biological mother, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more beneath the surface, something my mom wasn't telling me. I kept thinking about her reluctance when I pressed for details, the way her eyes clouded over whenever I mentioned her younger sister. The note, the story of a scared young girl disappearing, the sudden reappearance of this woman wanting to meet me, it all seemed too neat, too rehearsed. So, I decided to do something I never imagined I would. I started digging on my own. I began with the most obvious source, my mom's younger sister. I asked my mom again, more insistently this time, but she only shook her head and said it was better not to revisit old wounds. But I was determined to find answers. I contacted relatives I hadn't spoken to in years and scrolled through old family albums, trying to piece together the timeline and see if anything contradicted the story I'd been told. I found some old letters tucked away in a drawer in my mom's room, letters from a woman I recognized as her sister, but they weren't what I expected. The tone wasn't one of remorse or fear, but anger and bitterness. She wrote about feeling betrayed, about family secrets that were suffocating her. The more I read, the clearer it became that this story wasn't just about a scared teenager who vanished. There was something darker at play. One letter mentioned a man no one talked about in the family. Someone powerful, someone dangerous. My curiosity turned into a gnawing need to know the truth. I wanted to meet my biological mother again, to ask the questions my mom wouldn't answer. But when I called the cafe where we had met, I learned she had left town suddenly and stopped answering her phone. It was like she disappeared again, just like before. I felt abandoned, not just by the woman who gave me life, but by the secrets that had been kept from me. At this point, my relationship with my mom became strained. She saw my obsession with the truth as a threat, as if I was digging up skeletons that were better left buried. But I couldn't stop. I needed to know why my real mother had vanished, why she'd left me behind, and why my mom had hidden the truth for so long. Then, one evening, I received an anonymous message on my phone. It simply said, "Stop looking. Some truths will destroy you." My blood ran cold. Who was warning me? Was it my mom? My biological mother? Or someone else entirely? I wanted to ignore the message, to keep pushing forward, but fear crept into my bones. I wasn't sure who to trust anymore. Despite the warning, I reached out to a private investigator, hoping to find out more about my biological mother's disappearance and who this man in the letters was. The investigator dug into old records, uncovered some surprising facts, and revealed something no one in the family had ever told me. My biological mother didn't just vanish because she was scared or young. She had been forced out of the family because of a scandal involving that mysterious man, the one from the letters. A man who had ties to organized crime, someone who had threatened the family if they interfered. The investigator's findings painted a picture of betrayal and danger, far from the innocent story I had been told. I realized then that my mom had protected me from a darkness that could have destroyed me if I had known too soon. But now, the truth was out, and it was more dangerous than I had ever imagined. I had to decide whether to keep digging or to accept the story I was given and try to move on. The stakes had changed. This was no longer just about family secrets, it was about safety, trust, and whether I was ready to face the full truth, no matter how painful or dangerous it might be. From the moment the private investigator's report landed in my hands, everything about my past began to unravel like a taut thread slowly pulling apart a fragile tapestry. The man, the shadowy figure who had haunted those old letters, was no ordinary relative or distant threat. He was dangerous, with connections that reached far beyond the family, far beyond anything I could imagine. I started noticing strange things almost immediately. My phone buzzed in the middle of the night, calls from numbers I didn't recognize, texts with cryptic warnings like "stop digging" and "some stones are better left unturned." It wasn't just paranoia, there was something real and menacing stalking me in the shadows. One evening, as I left work, I felt eyes on me, the unmistakable sensation of being followed. I quickened my pace, heart hammering, but when I glanced behind, the street was empty. Or so I thought. My breath caught as a black car rolled slowly past, its windows tinted dark, its driver watching with an unreadable expression. The warnings suddenly made sense, someone wanted me to stop, and they were serious. I tried to tell my mom, hoping for guidance or at least some reassurance, but she grew distant, her face a mask of worry and regret. One night, she sat me down and whispered, "There's more you don't know, about your biological mother, about why she really left, and about the man who controls everything." I begged her to tell me everything, to finally break the silence, but she only shook her head. "It's not safe. For you, or for me." But I was already past the point of no return. My curiosity was a wildfire, consuming everything in its path. I had to know the truth, no matter the cost. Late one night, I received a mysterious package at my doorstep. Inside was an old, battered diary, the handwriting unmistakably my biological mother's. As I flipped through the pages, her voice came alive in ink, telling a story of fear, betrayal, and a desperate fight for survival. She wrote about the man, how he had threatened her family, how he had forced her into silence, and how she had left not out of weakness, but to protect me from a danger she could never escape. The diary ended abruptly, with a chilling warning: "If you are reading this, it means I failed to keep you safe. Trust no one. Some truths are deadly." My hands trembled as I read the last lines. Suddenly, the family secret wasn't just about lost love or hidden identities, it was a matter of life and death. The next day, I went to confront my mom, clutching the diary tightly. She looked at me with tears in her eyes, a mixture of fear and sorrow. "I wanted to tell you, but I couldn't. The man has eyes everywhere. If you push too hard, they will come for you." The weight of her words pressed down on me, but I couldn't back down. That night, I heard footsteps outside my window. A shadow slipped away before I could see who it was. I realized then that this was bigger than me, bigger than my family's secrets. The danger was real, and the people involved were watching, waiting. I had to decide, keep running from the truth, or face the darkness head-on, no matter what awaited me in the shadows. The footsteps outside my window haunted me long after they disappeared into the night. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind, felt like a warning. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I was trapped between the safety of ignorance and the peril of the truth. My mom's fears echoed in my mind, the man has eyes everywhere. I realized that this shadowy figure wasn't just a story, but a living threat looming over my entire existence. The next morning, armed with the diary and a pounding heart, I confronted my mom again. I needed answers, real ones. She finally broke down, her walls crumbling. She told me the whole story, far beyond anything I had imagined. The man in the letters and diary was my biological mother's ex, someone with a violent past and dangerous connections. When she got pregnant, he wanted nothing to do with the child and threatened anyone who interfered. My biological mother had tried to protect me by hiding me away with my aunt, my mom, and disappearing herself. But he never stopped hunting her, and by extension, anyone connected to me. That's why I kept the secret, my mom whispered, tears streaming. I didn't want you to become a target. But now that you've found out, they know. The reality hit me like a freight train. My life, my family, our safety, all were at risk because of secrets buried decades ago. But as I sat there, scared yet determined, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was from an unknown number. Meet me at the old pier. Midnight. Alone. Come if you want the truth. It was a trap. I knew it, but I couldn't resist. The need to uncover the final piece of the puzzle outweighed my fear. When midnight came, I slipped out quietly, heart racing. The pier was cold and deserted, the water lapping quietly beneath the moonlight. A figure emerged from the shadows, a woman, tall, with sharp eyes that held 1,000 secrets. She introduced herself as my biological mother's closest friend, someone who had been protecting me from afar. She revealed what my mom never could, that my biological mother hadn't just vanished, she was forced into hiding to escape the man's wrath. But there was more, the note, the letters, the diary, some were deliberate misinformation, planted to keep the truth safe. The real secret was far darker. My biological mother had been trying to expose the man's crimes before she disappeared. She had evidence hidden somewhere, a secret that could destroy him. And now, he was desperate to find it, and me. As the woman handed me a small envelope, my hands shook. Inside were photographs, documents, and a letter from my biological mother herself, urging me to keep fighting and promising that she had never stopped loving me. The weight of years of lies, fear, and danger pressed down on me, but so did a strange, fierce hope. I wasn't just a lost child or a secret kept in the shadows. I was the key to ending this nightmare. Suddenly, headlights flashed down the pier, and I saw the black car again. The danger was closing in fast. But this time, I wasn't running. I was ready to face the darkness, to uncover the truth and claim my life back, no matter the cost. The headlights flooded the pier, cutting through the thick night fog like a blade. The black car slowed to a stop, and my heart hammered so loudly I feared it would betray me. The woman who had appeared as my biological mother's friend pulled me back into the shadows, whispering urgently, "Don't trust anyone. Not even me." That sentence twisted in my mind. Was she truly a friend, or just another player in this tangled web? The car door opened slowly, and a tall figure stepped out. My breath caught. It was a man I recognized immediately from the photos in the envelope. The man who had haunted my family's past, the one responsible for so much pain. But what happened next was the last thing I expected. The man looked at me, his eyes softening. "You're braver than I imagined," he said quietly. "I'm not here to hurt you." I was frozen, disbelief and confusion swirling in my mind. Was this some cruel trick? Or had everything I believed been wrong? Then, the woman beside me gasped. "You lied to us all these years," she said, stepping forward. "You're the one who destroyed her life." The man shook his head. "No. I'm the one who protected her, from worse." I'm the real father of your cousin, not the man you thought. Your biological mother's sister was hiding more than just you." Suddenly, the whole story flipped on its head. My biological mother was actually her cousin, and the truth I'd been chasing was a maze of lies designed to keep a deeper family secret buried. The man's threats were not about me, but about protecting this secret, one that could ruin several lives if revealed. I felt dizzy, the ground shifting beneath me. The woman who had called herself my ally disappeared into the shadows, her true motives unclear. My mom's warning echoed, "Trust no one." I realized then that my identity was tangled in a web much more complicated than I'd ever imagined. But I also realized that the truth, no matter how messy, was mine to own. I looked at the man, at the woman, and then back at the empty pier stretching before me. I knew the story was far from over. What mattered most was that I was no longer a hidden secret or a pawn in someone else's game. I was ready to write my own story, one where I decided who I was, and what I would become.